With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Everything from clothing to household items are getting more expensive each day. The world of fast fashion has complicated clothing production by outsourcing around the world to whoever can sew them the cheapest. And now you, the consumer, are paying the price with rising costs. American Giant is about keeping things simple and close to home. They aren't affected by tariffs because their products never leave the U.S. So when you buy from American Giant, you're taking a stand for hardworking people, local communities, and quality clothes. American Giant directly supports American manufacturers and ensures you aren't footing that tariff bill. Support American-made, tariff-free clothing with American Giant with American Giant. Get 20% off your first order when you use promo code STAPLE20 at american-giant.com. That's 20% off when you use code STAPLE20 at american-giant.com.
I take no blame or credit for that song. That was strictly on my partner, Ryan Reed. Ryan, you're 12 years old and you picked Delta Dawn from like 1972.
I saw a random edit of a player on TikTok, believe it or not, the other day, and it's been in my head ever since, so it's on now.
You know, the Edmonton Stingers are in year 7 in the CEBL, and one of the great developments in the basketball world has been the Canadian Elite Basketball League, and it's grown in both in terms of attention, attendance, and quality year after year. And one of the reasons it's grown in quality is because of its ability to draw in great players. And one of those great players is with me right now, and that's Scottie Lindsey, who has been on a tear for the Edmonton Stingers as of late. And Scottie joins us today. Scottie, thanks so much for making time to join us.
No problem at all. How you guys doing?
We're doing great. We're doing great. And speaking of doing great, you're doing great. And the team, you guys have really turned things around, haven't you?
Yeah. The last couple of weeks, I think starting after that Montreal game, kind of just took a look at ourselves in the mirror, started to fix the things that we needed to work on, and we've been winning. I think we've won, 3 out of the last 4.
Yep.
So, just after that game, just practicing, getting everything together, it's been pretty good.
Well, now, Scottie, you have CEBL experience prior to coming to Edmonton, correct?
Right. I played for Saskatchewan Rattlers in 2022, and then I played for the Winnipeg Sea Bears last summer. Okay, so now you're in Edmonton. How's the experience been so far? I've loved it so far. Edmonton is a really great place. This organization is one of the best organizations in the league. Obviously, a championship-winning organization that, expects that type of play. So it's been great. I've been blessed to play for this team and have this opportunity. So, Scottie, being a part of the broadcast team, and I talk about this, I've talked about it a few times on the air, is right from the beginning of the year, and I had a chance to speak with you one-on-one briefly over at Strathcona High School when you guys were in your preseason camp. We had a nice conversation on the sideline, and what I was so excited about was the fact that you are such a good shooter and you bring that quality of shot making to the Stingers. But more than that, and I think what people need to understand and have really begun to understand about Scottie Lindsey is you're a scorer who can shoot, not a shooter who can score. And I think that you're really showing the full range and the multifaceted game that you actually possess in the last few games, haven't you? Right. Yeah. I think sometimes with how the game's been going over the last few years and Steph Curry and everything, everyone falls in love with just the three and just shooting threes. And I think at the beginning of the season, I found myself shooting too many threes and my eyes kind of settling a little bit. because I do have the height. I'm 6'6". I have a 7-foot wingspan. I have the height and the build to not only shoot threes, but get in the lane, play in the post, create for my teammates, get to the mid-range sometimes, or just get all the way in the lane. So I think just using all of my tools has been great for me, and not just settling for that three.
One of the temptations, I think, and I look forward to your opinion on this. When you're someone who not only can shoot the three but prides themselves on their ability to shoot the three, the term "falling in love" I think is appropriate. But do you also feel, if the shot isn't falling, you feel that almost that sense of I've got to hit one, so you look too much for the three in a situation like that, because you feel you got to hit one to prove to yourself that you can really shoot the ball, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it does make sense. There are some games that, you want to see that first one go in, and then you keep, going. And I just have to remind myself sometimes that take good ones. There are times where maybe if I hit 2 in a row or something like that, then I'll take, a heat check maybe. But just these last few games, I've been trying to take good ones and still use the other facets of my game. So it's not like, and keep the defense on their toes too, because on every team scouting report is Scottie Lindsey 3-point shooter. So they're running me off the line every time. They're denying me the ball and stuff like that. So it kind of forces me to use other facets of my game as well.
I'm talking with Scottie Lindsey, playing for the Edmonton Stingers. Scottie's joining us today here on the Basketball Show. Scottie, looking in the mirror after the Montreal game. So the Montreal game took place on June 6th. A bad loss for the Stingers on the road. Since then, Scottie, you have gone for 23, 32, 20, and 28 in the recent game down in Red Deer with a victory over the 7-2 Calgary Surge. How much fun was it to play in Red Deer in front of a crowd of people who have never had a pro basketball game there, and number 2, to beat the Surge?
Oh, that was an awesome experience. The venue was amazing to play in. It's always great to play in front of a lot of people. So that was an extremely fun game. Playing against the Surge, I feel like we owed them from the beginning of the season. We kind of gave them a game. The very first game of the season, we were up the whole game and lost it in Elam time. So, it was fun to, participate in the rivalry, but we also knew that we owed them from that first game of the season. So everyone was pumped up and ready to play, and it was a great environment from the tip-off to the end of the game. So it was a very fun game, and I think just another win that, helps us, even though, in that game it was close towards the end, even though we had the lead. I think that was an important learning experience for us because we're going to be in close games throughout this whole season. So I think that was a huge win for the team and just a great moment for us this year.
And the only thing, you're absolutely right. And the letter that matters is W. That's what gets recorded. So you can walk away, learn the lessons, but that W looks a lot better than the L. So,
oh yeah, for sure.
So Scottie, talk about your background, where you're from, where you played your college basketball, and where your professional career has taken you on your journey.
Yeah, for sure. I'm from Hillside, Illinois, which is right outside of Chicago, like 10 minutes right outside of Chicago. I went to Northwestern University, which is in the Big Ten, with schools like Indiana, Michigan State, Michigan, for 4 years. Graduated in 2018, and I've started my career with the Detroit Pistons. I signed to them and did training camp with them. 15 games into my career, I tore my ACL, so that kind of sent me on a little journey throughout the G League. I ended up playing for the New Orleans Pelicans G League team, which was Erie Bayhawks at the time. I ended up playing for Chicago's G League team, the Boston G League team, the Nets. I signed with them, ended up playing with their G League team. So I've been around a lot of places in the NBA, in the NBA G League. I've been overseas to Portugal. In 2020, I played for this team called Benfica. And then this year I played in the UK and in Luxembourg. So I've been around the world playing basketball for a while. I obviously love this game. It's been in my life since as long as I can remember. I remember starting to play at 2 years old. My parents bought me a hoop, and I've been in love with it ever since then. I'm named after Scottie Pippen, just the Chicago roots of it all. So basketball has just been ingrained in my life as long as I've ever known. So.
Well, you know, growing up in Chicago and the rich basketball history due, of course, to Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and the great Bulls teams of the 90s, how much of an influence was that in your life? You're named after Pippen, obviously. Your parents had something in mind here. Were your parents basketball players, by the way?
My dad played basketball. He was more of a baseball guy, but it was just in the city of Chicago, like, you can't really get away from basketball. I always talk to my friends about it. Like, basketball is just in your DNA when you're from Chicago. And those Bulls teams have had a huge effect on my life. As long as I can remember, my dad he had VHS tapes back in the day when we used to watch the VCR and everything. He had all the Bulls games, all the championship-winning videos, all Michael Jordan DVDs and tapes and everything. So I've always studied those and watched them, and I still watch them to this day. Whenever I find myself wanting just a little bit of extra motivation or just want to study, I'll watch some old Bulls film just because I love those teams so much, and that history is just ingrained in me. So.
Scottie Lindsey from the Edmonton Stingers joining us here on the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. I'm going to ask you an era question here. You grew up in this great city with this great history with one of the most, if not the most, iconic players in basketball history, in Michael Jordan in your midst. Which era of basketball do you prefer in terms of style of play? The 90s era or the present era?
I think I prefer the 90s era. I just think that the game today is just a little bit different. Just with, how much, guys shoot threes, I do think the game is a little bit softer. Don't get me wrong, the talent level, because of the generations that's come before, has inspired so much. So I do think that today's talent level most likely probably is better just because of the generations before and the game evolving. But I think just the style of play back then was just, I don't know, it was enticing. It was beautiful to watch. And it wasn't just, everyone rushing to shoot threes. Bigs were used a lot more. Like today, you see the bigs are on the outside. They're not even playing in the paint anymore. The game was more used by the whole team. It wasn't just about, one or two guys who, the TV are, advertising. It was the whole team. So I just really like that game, the era, and how the game was played back in the 90s and early 2000s for sure.
Well, I think you make I think you've done a great job of describing the differences between the games, because the bigs are no longer, they talk about positionless basketball. It's great to have guys that are 7 feet tall, that can step out and hit the three. I mean, Dirk kind of ruined it for everybody in terms of traditional post play, but that's great. I mean, they've turned into better players. At times, it seems like the NBA is going back a bit at times. I am really curious when you look at Wembanyama and the style of play. I mean, he's a 7'4" point guard now, or wing. Two guard, 7'4" two guard. And the athletic ability, I totally agree with you. But the rush to the three. And there's an awful lot of discussion about the overshooting of the three. And I think what's been interesting, I'm curious on your take about the NBA Finals, is the reemergence of the relevance, at least of the mid game, not necessarily the back to the basket big man play, but certainly Gilgeous Alexander, Halliburton, and a variety of other plays, J-Dub rather.
Yeah.
I mean, the mid-range game is really important. And I've noticed that about yourself, too, is that you're willing to put the ball down for 1-2 dribble pull-ups. I think the mid-range game is so overlooked with the emphasis on layups or three-pointers.
Yeah, right around the time I started my pro career, I remember when I was with Detroit, and in practice, they'd be like, we want no mid-ranges. We only want threes and layups. And, like, I never understood that. And I was just like, okay, I mean, they're calculating, okay, a three is worth more than a two or whatever, and the points per whatever possession and shots. But I never understood that because I always felt like the mid-range was such an easy shot for me. The three obviously is worth more points and everything, but it's farther. If you just think about it in the most simplest terms, it's farther. So it's a harder shot. And we work on free throws. We work on, starting in and starting with form shooting. And I just always felt like the mid-range was such an easy shot for me. It was such a rhythm shot. And, a lot of the stars, if you watch Jason Tatum, like you said, SGA, all of those guys shoot mid-range. And usually and Kevin Durant, they usually make those shots more than the three. So I just feel like it's an easier shot. It's a rhythm shot. And more often than not, it's going to go in. So I just really like that shot. It showcases your touch, showcases that, I can make a jump shot that's not a three as well. And it's a beautiful shot. I think if you have that shot in your repertoire, you should always use it just as a switch of pace from three, especially when the defense is trying to run you off the line like they're trying to do to me. And there might be a 7-footer in the lane. It's easy to just get in there and do a mid-range.
It really is, and it makes you much harder to guard because then the defense has to respect your mid-range, and they're not going to close out in quite the same way on your three-point shot. Exactly. So I think it's really an important part of your arsenal. Well, tomorrow afternoon, Scottie, you and your teammates on the Stingers are going to be taking on the Winnipeg Sea Bears in a very, very good game. The Sea Bears are much improved, adding a couple of very good, very talented players. It's great to have you back on the home court. Scottie Lindsey, thank you so much for joining us today here on the Basketball Show. Best of luck for the rest of the year, and hope we can have you on again.
For sure. No, I appreciate you guys having me. I love, being on the radio and talking. That's what I went to school for. That was my major. So I love doing stuff like this, and I appreciate you guys having me.
Scottie Lindsey, star for the Edmonton Stingers, joining us here on the Basketball Show. We're going to take a break right now, and when we come back, Ryan and I will head into closing time.